Welcome to the Pop Culture Salvage Expedition with the Center for Artistic Activism. We are going to dig deep into the minds of popular culture, getting dirty, looking for the gems and the gold. Movies, music, events, things like that. And try to find things of value that we can use. I am here. My name is Steve Lambert. I am the co-founder and co-director of the Center for Artistic Activism.
And I'm Steve Duncombe, also co-founder, co-director of the Center for Artistic Activism.
And hi, I'm Pat Gerardo. I am with the Center for Artistic Activism.
Okay, and some people might be wondering, why go into pop culture? Why do this? What's the value? And we were talking about Stuart Hall today.
Yeah, and one of the things we learned from Stuart Hall was that all popular culture, no matter how horrible it is...
Wait, who's Stuart Hall?
Stuart Hall. Stuart Hall is... The late, great Stuart Hall was one of the leading minds of cultural studies. And he died last year. And one of the things that he did so well is he looked into popular culture, and in popular culture found its radical potential. And his idea was really simple, which is popular culture is, well, it's popular. That is, we might not like it all the time. It might be something that we don't want to watch ourselves. But popular culture, in order to stay on the air, in order to be successful commercially in a capitalist society, it has to resonate with people's real desires. But what we can do is we can actually dig into that culture, find those desires, and reroute them for other purposes. Because popular culture is about making money. It's about mining popular desire. Exactly. It mines popular desire in order to make money, but we can mine the same popular desire and move it elsewhere, and move it into activism, move it into mobilizing people, move it into changing society.
And Steve, you know a lot about this. You wrote a book called Dream, Reimagining Progressive Politics in an Age of Fantasy that talks all about this.
I did indeed.
And Pat, you used to do something like this too, right?
Yes, I did. The group GoLeft.org, and we worked with progressive organizations to use pop culture in their organizing and strategy building.
Great. Okay, so we are going to do this thing today, the surprise.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
We don't know what it is. Steve knows what it is,
yeah,
but we don't know what it is.
I chose a bit of pop culture that I thought, it kind of turns me off to begin with, but it was the number one top grossing worldwide movie last year.
Whoa.
Pat's digging back in her brain.
Think what that was last year.
The key is worldwide.
Worldwide.
So what do you think?
I'll give you a hint.
I'm going to say Hunger Games?
Hunger Games was number one in the U.S. Very good, very good.
I'm just saying it's got to have Tom Hanks in it.
I don't know if Tom Hanks has quite the worldwide appeal. He is very charming. The number one top grossing worldwide movie in 2014 made over $100 billion.
Yeah.
It's Transformers, Age of Extinction.
You lie.
I am serious. Yeah. Let's see. It made $245 million in the U.S. It was the fifth highest grossing here, not as popular as Hunger Games.
That's probably the one popular movie I didn't see last year.
Yeah, and then I didn't see it either.
I didn't see it either.
Yeah, it was not on my list. I will see almost anything in IMAX, and this was a big IMAX release. It made $841 million outside the U.S. It's the
and that's without Megan Fox.
Yeah, she's not in this one. So there's three movies that came before.
Who were the other Transformers?
Yeah.
You have been revealed.
I knew enough not to go watch it.
So there's three other Transformers movies. The original, self-titled Transformers. Then there's Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. The story was not resolved there, and it went on to Transformers Dark of the Moon. Have you seen any of the other ones?
Only clips. I haven't watched it from beginning to end.
I tried to watch Transformers this week just to brush up on it. I got halfway through. I did, though, grow up in the period where, like, in elementary school, Transformers hit hard. The toys, the cartoon, So I have a little bit of background. I'm
still not sure what Transformers are.
I'm not even sure what's transforming.
I know there was a Simpsons spoof. I saw that, but
okay.
That's about
Really
it.
quick.
Okay.
You're 8, 9 years old,
Okay.
a boy. Okay, if you can imagine, really into cars and trucks and robots.
Cars, trucks, and robots.
Transformers are cars, trucks, and robots.
Awesome.
And there was a few things like toys around that period. So anyway, they were cars that transformed into robots. Like they broke apart and would reform into robots. You'd move parts, kind of like a puzzle.
Okay. For
And,
any particular reason?
Hey,
It was cool. It was really
Okay.
cool, and it was promoted by Hasbro. And they were on Saturday morning cartoons and stuff. You know, they first there were commercials, and then it became its own cartoon.
and you know, there's a Tom Hanks story which is about this.
Really?
I'm dead serious. In
What
a
do you-
Tom Hanks film.
he was a
Remember
robot?
when he becomes like a little kid?
Big.
Big. Or he is a little kid who becomes big. He actually pitches the Transformers at the toy meeting, and people are like, whoa, let's do that. So, see, Tom Hanks does have to do with the Transformers.
So the other thing, there was a competing toy at the same time called GoBots. And then there's another thing called Micro Machines, which were the very tiny cars, smaller than Hot Wheels. So you had all these car toys, but Transformers is what you'd call a game changer in that they turned into robots. Okay. And then there's also, what was that thing where all the robots got together and formed the big robot? Oh, they were like lions? I don't remember. But anyway, this is a thing in the 80s. And now there's these movies. Biggest, highest grossing movie in the world. Over $1 billion.
Wow.
So
do you remember what was marketed to girls at that same time in the 80s?
I've been a man, boy, those two things my whole life, and did not pay as close attention.
Okay.
I know Strawberry Shortcake.
Pretty Pony and Shortcake.
Yeah, My Little Pony.
Oh, My Little Pony.
Yeah.
That's probably it, yeah.
Yeah. Thundercats, kind of, there was a female Thundercats. That. Yeah.
Thundercats Go.
Yeah. Hey-oh. So, all right, so we're going to watch the Transformers Age of Extinction in HD.
And when we watch it, what we're going to be looking for is like, what are those things? What are those sort of deep things? We're going to dig deep into it that we can actually use as activists.
Okay. I can say I've never seen anything from a Michael Bay movie that I could dig into for activism.
And that's why this is the challenge. If it was something easy, if we were watching some progressive film that we all felt good about, you know.
Like even Hunger Games would be easier. It's got these sort of liberation
class
themes
war and all that sort of stuff. Too easy.
Yeah.
Too easy. We got it.
We got to go deep into the dirt. Yeah.
See what we find.
Ready to go?
All right.
This message is to my creators. Leave planet Earth alone. 'Cause I'm coming for you.
That was 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Whoa. It could have been 17.
Yeah. What day is it?
That was some movie,
That
man.
was bad.
Yeah, that was really bad.
I guess I'll tell you now. It has an 18% on Rotten Tomatoes. It is not critically acclaimed, but it is the highest grossing movie worldwide.
Yeah. So here we go, and this is the design challenge, which is it's like we were saying before. It's super easy to do this with like culture we like. It's super easy to do it with culture that like, oh yeah, that's about, class struggle, or that's about bigotry. It's really hard to figure out like what can we rescue, what can we salvage from like 2 hours and 40 minutes of trucks turning into robots, then
dinosaurs
turning into dinosaurs,
Yeah.
and just endless explosions and horrible dialogue and Marky Mark like full of rage the entire time.
Yeah, we could trash it easy for sure, and that's been done. But our job and it's hard work.
Is to salvage something.
Yeah, figuring out what's good in there.
So where do we start?
First, just so much traumatic brain injury that was not recognized. Okay.
I thought you meant by us watching the traumatic brain injury.
Well, one thing I noticed right early in the movie is that all the robots have character.
Yeah.
Right? So, there's the leader one, and then there's the John Goodman war hero one. I think we're bringing back his Big Lebowski sort of vet thing, right? Yeah. And they each have a
and then there's like character. Bumblebee, who's like the young upstart. And,
yeah. And they're multicultural. There's the Japanese samurai one,
That's
and
true.
the British Isles, indistinguishable British Isles one, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, they all have these different characters, right? And because you need characters to identify with a robot,
right? And the key thing is they're identifiable characters. It's like we've seen those characters since like World War II films, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and so what I was thinking about activism is that in our quest to get rid of hierarchy, you often risk squashing individual characters, right? Mm-hmm. That like people can identify with from the outside.
I was also thinking that. One of the things we need to do when we do our sort of activist pieces or activist projects is give people characters that they can actually understand and identify with immediately. Is that
like a role?
Well, no. It's just like I'm thinking of a performance or something like that. People need to be able to, figure out who you are. You want to surprise them, right? But you also don't want, they're going to look at you and identify you as an activist. And then they're going to like, okay, they're activists. Mm-hmm. I know what to do with them. I ignore them, okay? But if you can play out these characters that people sort of know already because they've seen 1,001 movies with these characters in them, and then switch them around so they're sort of the activist John Goodman, the activist like British Isle kind of guy,
or
the
like
activist
that guy's
samurai.
funny.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Maybe we could do something with that.
Well, I was still divorced from this movie, but I guess I was thinking through, why do I go to the movies, especially blockbusters like this in the summer? And for me, it's not even the content that's as important as the air conditioning, as the popcorn, the people in the theater that I get to laugh with around. I would not have watched this movie by myself in my living room, and having the two of you to see it with
I don't
mattered.
think I would have finished it.
Right, exactly. So I was sitting there and I was thinking, okay, why do I even go to the movies? And it is one of those few places that we still have where we're allowed to be with other people. Mm-hmm. So that's what I was getting out of it.
I just like that this movie made you think, why am I watching movies at all?
Pat, work with that, which is like, so what can we use from that? This idea of this, we want to be social. We want to go and laugh with strangers, basically. Grown with strangers. You can imagine that even in the film, people are like, oh, God, that's so stupid. But it was a collective, oh, God, that's so stupid.
Right. And I think it's, something that we do as, activists, constructing bad demonstrations or
good demonstrations.
Right? Yeah. But when we do it poorly, or when we do the, what seems like another useless march to wherever, what matters and what's important out of it is the connections that we make together. So even if we're creating our own bad cinema together, I think it's how we do it and in what community we have that makes it really exciting. And it doesn't matter as much whatever that final product is if we're doing it together. And I like the people that I'm with and we're in the struggle together. And then we have this, bad production. And then, okay, well, that's not going to make or break us.
Right. At least we got to hang out together, even if it is a bad production. And certainly I've been to a lot of marches where like, this march kind of sucked, but I haven't seen my friends in a long time.
Exactly. Thank you, Bush.
Right. Yeah. But maybe that's something to like think about is like, we always think in terms of content, particularly when we're thinking about like artistic activism, which is like, okay, what is the content and the form going to be like? And what you're talking about is like, well, sometimes it's just getting people together, and we have to think about the process and the sort of the social process, and how can we facilitate it and make it the best social process possible for people.
Right.
Yeah, we talk about this in the workshop sometimes, like saying hello to people and thanking them for coming, and it actually means a lot and does a lot, because to reinforce the fact that you even showed up.
Yeah. One of the things I was thinking about is, okay, the other thing I was thinking is like, why was this the biggest grossing film? Like, how is that possible? And there's some like individual markers, which I think explain some of it. One is half the scenes are shot in China, and there's Chinese product placement. Like they conceived of this film as an international film, right?
Yeah.
And they conceived of this wasn't just going to sell to an American market; it was going to sell to a Chinese market. And so there's like these landscapes which are immediately recognizable: Texas,
yes,
the Great Wall of China. And it was just like, okay, we know what those are. Everybody in the world has heard about Texas. Everybody in the world has heard about the Great Wall of China. And so it can sort of translate. But then it was like, the other thing that translates is like explosions. It's just like...
and like physical jokes.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah,
and like visual jokes.
Yeah, and yet you don't need any subtle wordplay. God knows there was no subtle wordplay. Because really there's this sort of universal, if music is universal, love is universal, explosions are universal as well.
I was actually thinking about that with the absence of New York in this movie. So New York is not attacked or a figure in it at all. And it is part of that, it would become too overwhelming a place if they had situated New York in any of the robot drama that was going on.
Yeah, because then then it would be about New York.
Yes.
Or about Tokyo. And it was about Hong Kong and it was about Texas, but it really wasn't. I mean, it shifted all over the place.
There was not one Texan accent in that film.
Yeah, exactly. So
another thing I was thinking about was how you don't have to see the other movies to get anything out of it. Like, you can be caught up really quick. Like there's the good robots, the bad robots, the humans. There's been this misunderstanding. This is what's at stake. Like all of it is explained fairly quickly. And for people to enter, a movement or some kind of activist thing, the kinds of things that we're encouraging people to produce, it's not always like an easy entry, right? To come in the fourth stage or the fourth iteration of something and to understand it or to be welcomed.
Yeah. When we were just in Spain working with access to medicine activists, the most amazing thing is that they had a lingo that was completely their own and insular. And because they were all working on the same issue, they actually didn't even know that. And that we all do that. When we work on an issue really long, we say things like, well, the LGBT beta blocker, such and such. And we're like, what? And we realized that, look, if we don't understand, the people we're going to talk to aren't going to understand. And so, like, what can we do that's sort of open? What can we do that welcomes people in and creates, it's sort of like the characters we were talking about before. What can we create in terms of sort of visual language, in terms of our messaging and so on, that where you can come in episode 4 of this protest or episode 4 of this campaign and say, I get it. Yeah. Okay, I can follow this long enough. Well, at the same time, giving little clues to those people who've been watching it before. There are sort of like little in-jokes in this film. Yeah.
What I was thinking about during this film, which pops up for me, and I'm not even going to say that they did it well, the best, but it is the convoluted message around government that especially action movies get, and our convoluted message around government that as leftists and, along the progressive spectrum of liberals to radicals, about whether or not we want to talk about good government or what government can do to us, to the oppressive government that, is sending out drones and waterboarding, right? We have a convoluted message around government. And I see that so often, especially in the action films. And I'm always trying to figure out to what extent, are they purposefully trying to be convoluted? And then what extent is, are they able to seamlessly move us between, oh yeah, CIA good, UN
NSA
bad, right?
Yeah.
Or, any kind of differentiations that they make between government agencies.
Well, the way they showed like the business guy was sort of the real bad guy that was in bed in controlling the government, but it's around the government, Yeah, I guess it got twisted because then the government was controlling the business guy, or they seem to be.
Right, and I think it's probably a reflection of that we're really ambivalent in this country about like the role of government. Is that on the one hand, we think that the government, it's a democratic government. It should be doing things for us. On the other hand, we know that it's bought off by rich people and so on. And so that ambiguity that you're talking about is like the filmmaker, I think, probably really figuring out that that's how most Americans feel about this. So what do we do with that? I mean, the fact is that, what do we do when we're situated in sort of a field in which people feel two ways about something or three ways about something? It's not a clear this is good and this is bad.
I don't know. I think maybe you need to enter it in starting with that complicated place and figure out what sticks and then talk them through it, right? If you come with a clear, like, this is what you should think, I don't know if it's as easy to engage.
Yeah, because I think that's maybe what this showed. Because in some ways, one way would be to say, no, we got to do the clear battle lines. These people are good. These people are bad. And we were talking a little bit about that. That sort of clarity helps. But I also think if you get too clear, you risk missing the ambiguity, which is part of everybody's sort of mental life when it comes to politics, is that we both love the government and hate the government simultaneously. Right.
And as soon as people tell you, government is good, you can think of 50 examples of where that's wrong. And as soon as someone says, get rid of government, drown it in a bathtub, right? That is also an extreme that you're just like, that's ridiculous. And, get back on your road and your,
And so maybe what we think is about exactly that, is actually doing the sort of differentiation that people do all the time, which is to say, hey, why you should pay taxes is not because government's good. You should pay taxes for the things that government is good for, like public schools. And we shouldn't be paying taxes to support black ops. And what's interesting about this film is that, black ops become this sort of shady world which is bought off by either aliens or people. I'm not quite sure who was buying off or who, I don't know who they were working for at a certain time.
They had made a deal with the bounty hunter alien ship in trade for the seed robot turns it all life into metal bomb thing. Whoa. If I remember right. But I think so. It was hard to follow.
Yeah, I think so. But I do think that it gets at that when we go into the field, people have complicated ideas about all sorts of things, and what we can do is pull on certain things and push back on others instead of doing the blanket. Because most people do have a good experience with government when it comes to things like their public schools or their roads getting fixed. And they have a bad experience with the government when they feel that it's going to programs which don't benefit them. Right.
Or they have an invisible experience with government when their water isn't contaminated or when, the food that they're getting, isn't giving them salmonella. So,
yeah, exactly.
One thing I noticed is that and in the part of the first Transformers movie that I watched earlier, is that there's these self-referential jokes that call back, that are partly nostalgic, right? Even some of the sound effects are from the original cartoon. And but not just that nostalgic reference thing, but every once in a while there needs to be, in the beginning, you have a comic relief character who's this sort of friend of Mark Wahlberg. I forget, he's a comedian, but he dies after 20, 30 minutes. And then the bad guy businessman becomes the comic relief character because there's robots that are the comic, because you always need to have one. Right. And no matter what sort of tense, thing is happening, the daughter nearly being shot in the head by these black ops government agents, there's that comic guy giving a little relief to that. And I don't know that progressive causes always have that comic relief, you know, or maybe are a little bit afraid of it because it might seem inappropriate in certain times. But there's no spot in this movie where it's not okay to make a joke, either on screen or in the audience.
Yeah, and I think, and it doesn't take away, well, I was going to say, it doesn't take away from the seriousness of the film. There is no seriousness in the film. But I do think that the principle is it needn't take away from the seriousness of whatever else is going on. And so, I mean, one of the things we can think about is like, no matter how serious a message, there always needs to be that little thing which allows for a release or relief.
And it can work, you know, no matter how uncomfortable or difficult the topic is.
Yeah. And I was also thinking through that in the sense that it's also always fun to see people having a good time. So when they're doing the self-referential jokes, you go, oh, okay, they had a good time saying that line, or, you know, that was some good banter that they had. Even when it's, you know, an awful movie, which this was, those moments were actually, you know, you could appreciate how they appreciated having the joke.
Yeah. Which, I mean, bringing it back to the activist thing, is one of the things we always say is like, we are on the front line of every message we try to get across, is that we are the first message. If you're having a good time, then people are going to be like, wow, this is a good time to be with these folks. If you're, you know, righteous and shrill and miserable and filled with guilt, it's like, I don't want to join that group. I don't care about that issue. I don't want to be like those people. And that sounds really like banal and sort of surface, but it's true. Is that's how, you know, we don't just give a message. We are the message itself.
Right.
Well, and there's those downer characters in the movie, like the guy, when the spaceship crashes into his car, he's like, you better have insurance, you know, and like that's who everyone can look at and be like,
we hate that guy.
But the thing about activists being the message, I mean, that's a hard role to play. And it is sort of, you know, in movies when you talk about breaking that fourth wall, because when the issues that we're dealing with are so serious, how do you portray a lightheartedness with it, right? It's just like, where's the joke in drones, you know?
Right. Or police violence.
Right.
I mean, it's just not funny.
Right.
But I do think, well, the police violence is not funny, that maybe we don't always have to be funny. We can perform other things as well, which is we can perform, this is serious. We can perform that this is someone's son who's been killed or someone's daughter has been killed. There's all sorts of performances which are happening. It doesn't always have to be comic, but I think comedy, we can think about comedy creatively as well.
Yeah, I disagree. I think any topic, you can make it a good joke. It's just a matter of good writing and good thinking, you know. So like the joke around police brutality doesn't have to be about police hitting people or, you know, hurting people or killing them. But there can be jokes. There's a lot of topics around that. Right. And, you know, there's these sort of visual jokes in this movie, and there's visual jokes that you can make. There's, you know, you can have a cop that doesn't agree with this stuff, and he can be funny and sympathetic, you know. So there are always ways to bring in that kind of humor that it makes those difficult topics acceptable. It's just not always obvious. It's an art form. It's difficult.
Yeah. So here's a big question: why do we go to films like this? And what I mean by that is, I actually mostly go to films like this. I actually don't go to deep dramas which make me evaluate my life.
Well, you get them in Netflix, and then they sit around, right?
Exactly. And I don't watch those. Honestly, particularly when I pay $14, I go see movies like this. I'm glad I didn't pay $14 to see this movie. But, you know, I see every big blockbuster that comes out. And certainly, we're not alone. If you look at the top 5 grossing films, they're all these big blockbusters with explosions and you know, violence and so on and so forth. And I guess the big question is why? And why don't we go see the hard-hitting dramas which make us think about the despair of our lives and, you know, or the little moments of joy?
I think they're fun, you know. there, and part of it, maybe there's another thing we could come back to here, but is like the spectacle of seeing things you would never see. You know, the thing I think we said the most while watching this was, whoa, you know, and then there's people in the movie that are also saying, whoa, you know, because they do it in the first shot. There's like part of a spaceship, and then the camera pulls back. It's like Star Wars, you know, it's like, and then the spaceship gets bigger, and then there's a bigger spaceship, you know, and you're like, wow. And there's that novelty of seeing something you've never seen before, either this car that can turn into a robot or a dinosaur, or buildings being smashed. You know, like I remember when they blew up these projects, they were destroying the building, you know, in San Francisco. And it's like everyone wanted to go and sit around and see that happen, because when are you going to see that happen besides in the context of an earthquake?
Right.
You know?
So I'm a little different in that I will see mostly anything that's in the cinema. So I love going to the movies. So I love the experience of it. And seeing a Selma, I think, is one of the best things that I've done this year. And it's a movie that I'm so happy exists and can watch and, you know, have that hard experience. But it was joyful, and it was also such a well done, perfectly done movie, that it was entertaining, at the same time. But I think these big blockbusters, I love going to also because it is that entertainment. It is that fun aspect. It is where people are. And there's something about being part of the popular that's exciting. And I like, you know, having reference points that a lot of people can share with me.
Yeah.
It's interesting because it's like it is where people are, but it's also, as Steve was saying, it's where we're not. And that's kind of this interesting thing, which is it's like, well, how do we actually create spectacles which don't appear like everything else in people's lives, but have enough reference points so people can actually identify them? And that's the real art, okay? Because the thing is if you can immediately identify something, like that's a demonstration, then it's boring, right? It's boring. I mean, it may be exciting to us as activists, but for the most people outside of that, it's boring or it's a pain. I already know what to do with it. I figured it out. I followed it in my brain. I'm done, okay? And so what we need to do is create things which are like exploding cars, or cars that turn into dinosaurs, or
bring wonder and awe. Right?
Exactly, wonder and awe, and like, whoa! I can't believe they did that.
And I think it's easier than we think. You know, like there was a scene that's on that road that's flat, you know, and where the girl gets caught up in the net and pulled into the spaceship. But one of the things I noticed, like, you know, as an artist, like thinking about scale, right? So you've got flat road, flat land, and then the tallest thing is the telephone pole. And then, you know, and I know how tall a telephone pole is. I know how big this car is. And then there's these giant robots. And when those are introduced into the scene, anything that beats that scale is like totally impressive.
Right.
Yeah. And so when we make things, I'm thinking of this action we did in Spain recently, where you've got a sign that stands up, you know, about 8 feet. People are like, ugh, you know, because it's just big. You know?
I was going to say also, I don't want us to also take away what are some of the strengths of progressive culture and movement, and the demonstration is definitely one of them. And it is one of those cultural touchstones that everyone knows of. There's no TV show or movie that is ever shown in college without a demonstration. They don't show the ROTC in every college or TV, right? Even though ROTCs are on every college campus, but it is a cultural touchstone that exists because, and they're usually progressive. I mean, they're always progressive demonstrations. They're not right-wing demonstrations. So I think we do own that in the populace. And it's something that, I just wouldn't want us to lose that or think that that's not recognized.
Well, but maybe that's the familiarity that we have to pair with the extreme. That is that the art is actually creating something which is both recognizable and beloved. Okay, everybody wants to be part of the protest that we're in Selma, and that they look back and say, I wish I had been there, or I would have been there. So there's that. And then there's also the other side, which is, but it'd be cooler if there's an exploding car someplace there. And so what we've got to figure out is how to make it both recognizable and surprising at the same time. And that's the art of this whole process.
Another thing about this movie is that it's for children, right? It's basically...
That's hard to believe, but
made for people that are 8 to, probably boys, but 8 to
24.
18, 24. Yeah, at the most.
Trucks.
Yeah.
Dinosaurs.
Girls that need rescuing. But yeah, it's meant for a younger age group. And it's still pretty wide range. 8 to 24 is there's a varying levels of maturity. Insert joke here. That they're thinking about how to make a movie that, well, let's just say this might not be the best example of a family movie.
Right.
But
or a date movie.
But yeah, like, what can we do that is great for children and adults and is meaningful? Or that could be a fun thing to do on a date. Like go get a meal and then do this thing that actually is meaningful.
Yeah. No, that's true. It's sort of, when I think about a lot of the movies I go to now, I go with my kids, right? And
How old are your kids?
Oh, my kids are 9 and 11, right?
Okay, so they're Transformers age.
Oh, they're totally Transformers.
Have they seen this?
They have not seen this, but unfortunately, I'll probably have
what
to
do you
show
think
it to them.
do you think they would make it through the whole thing, or would they fall asleep?
They'd fall asleep.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. But I don't think they would fall asleep in the movie theater, partially because the people around them,
Right.
partially because this was made for 3D.
Yeah.
And it was completely spectacular. But I do think that the idea of acknowledging that when people are out, I think often protests are built around the single individual of the approximate age of 21. Right? And sometimes, and I think we do it sometimes quite well, we build in something for kids to do, or people with kids, or something older folks can do, or something that immigrants who may not have papers can do. Mm-hmm. But sometimes we just do it for the 21-year-old and think that's universal.
Right.
And it's not universal. And what these folks understand is kids like dinosaurs and trucks. Well, boys do. Yeah. And so we're going to put dinosaurs and trucks in there. And like, what would it mean to start thinking about the actions that we do and thinking about little bits and pieces of it which appeal to older folks, which would appeal to younger people, appeal to people on a date.
Right.
That would be a cool idea.
Take your date to this demonstration.
Exactly. Valentine's Day. It's coming up.
So, is there anything else about the movie that you guys want to make sure we cover? Mm-hmm. Because I have a question.
Sure, lay it on me.
Yeah.
All right, this is a surprise. Is there any bit of thing that you've seen in the last month or so that you're excited about that's in the realm of popular culture? Or on the edges?
You talking about Selma?
Which I've seen, yes. Well, I'll go to Spectrum. I would say in terms of Black cinema and Black actors on television, I've been fascinated with everything that's exploding right now, from everything Sandra Rhimes is doing, from Scandal to How to Get Away with Murder to Blackish, to Empire, which is the number one show on Fox right now.
It's like a soap opera?
It's a mega opera. It's just drama to the extreme.
High strength detergent opera.
High production values, just great acting, great chemistry. From that to, Doc McStuffins, which is a children's program with a young black girl who's a doctor and fixes up her stuffed animals. It's in scripted television, there is some exciting things that are happening, whereas what we're seeing in so-called reality television has gotten our culture to some of the basest parts, and especially in terms of race and gender.
Mm-hmm. Good point. You got anything?
I think I'm going to go back to the Hunger Games and not just talk about the Hunger Games, the latest one, which has come out in the past month or so, but the whole string of popular culture, which is incredibly progressive, which leaves me with a question, really, which is particularly popular culture for kids. If you think about things like Maleficent, or you think about Hunger Games, or WALL-E, or all of these kids really targeted towards this age we were talking about. Their values are incredibly progressive and quite revolutionary in a lot of ways. And so it leaves me with the question, which is this next generation of young kids who've been indoctrinated by Hollywood going to be the next generation of revolutionaries? Or actually, does it not matter at all?
Or is that the outlet for it?
Exactly. Exactly. Is it the catharsis? Yeah.
But if those are the fairy tale stories, I mean, that's how you learn morals, right? As a kid, right? Aesop's fables and stuff like that. Yeah. Maybe there's something there.
But it's this rewriting of the fairy tale that's
so
what's really, that's what Maleficent was. It's a feminist retelling of a story. And it's a couple of shows, including Once Upon a Time on ABC, has been playing with this true love construct. So your true love is no longer a romantic partner. Frozen did it also famously, but your true love can be your sister, it can be your mom, it can be, a stranger that doesn't have a sexual undertone to it. It's just love. And that's an incredible new idea to throw into the mix for folks.
And almost regardless of the impact, what these directors and producers are realizing is that there's a desire for this. There's a desire for a retelling of fairy tales, and so women have a different role. There's a desire for people to figure out a society of class privilege and display their rage. The impact time will tell. But it is interesting that the desire is there. And as activists, that's exactly the type of desire we can tap into. How about you?
I want to know if you guys have seen this show called Black Jesus.
No,
I've not heard of it.
So I am I watch movies on the plane, and that's how I get caught up with all the Marvel stuff and everything like that. But this is on Adult Swim, and Adult Swim is like Cartoon Network after hours, And they show some really weird stuff, partly because they make things that are kind of inexpensive. They're 15-minute shows. And there's this one they have now called Black Jesus, where Jesus comes back as a guy that lives in Compton. And he has some friends, and he can perform miracles.
Okay.
He breaks through this cyclone fence so they can get access. He's trying to build a community garden in Compton. Just saying out loud, it sounds crazy. It is crazy. I mean, that's kind of like what I find exciting about it is that I've only seen one or two of them. I haven't had the chance to watch all of them. I don't totally understand what's happening. I think I can follow the story, but I don't understand why would you make this, except that it's it's to confuse you. And I am confused so far, and I like that being confused, and I look forward to watching more and either making sense of it or continuing to be confused.
Well, actually, one final thing about confusion. I was confused through a lot of this film.
Yeah.
I didn't really understand what was going on. And I think
It is incredibly difficult to follow. There's a lot happening.
Okay,
It wasn't just you.
I know, but I also think that it's okay.
Yeah.
Like there's a little bit of confusion, which is okay. And there's a little bit of sort of, with Black Jesus, creative confusion. There can be like obfuscatory confusion.
Yeah.
Well, I don't get what's going on. But there's also little gaps where we can allow people to fill stuff in. And that's kind of the art of it all.
Or just like a crazy what if story. Like, why not? You know? So I want to end with a quote from Mark Wahlberg.
The actor.
The lead actor, perhaps second to all the robots. Mark Wahlberg from Transformers, Age of Extinction. And this is what he said. I look at all the junk and I see the treasure. And that's what we did tonight. Give yourselves a round of applause.
Don't you think that the million